Good afternoon. This is the first week of the Chinese New Year. I'm taking this time to starting our first broadcast of the program, which we have one page on the Facebook called the Gemexplorer. My name is Paul. Paul E is my name, and in Brazil, funny enough, they never know my name is Paul Yi. They just think of me as Paulo Chinês. Many of the Latin culture seems to be focused more on the first name than your last. I have my business with Brazil since 1977. It was 2 years after I received my master's degree in cross-cultural psychology. Why the venture? It was a very interesting time because I guess 77, I was 28, and also my wife and I, Kathy, have been very independent. During that time, after I finished my work with my master's, creating a system of counseling programs, nevertheless, on the side, from our wedding in 1974, I had brought in from Brazil a variety of color stones, gemstones, and trinkets. But my family, my father had moved to Brazil in 1952, and then our family followed up in 1962. I was born in Shanghai, 1948, moved to Hong Kong, Macau area in 1952. So I spent a good 10 years, mostly in Macau. And this is where I received my Roman Catholic education and also orientation, baptized by the Jesuits, and then I've gone to school with the order called the Salesians or Salesianos in Portuguese, known as John Bosco, from the origin of Turin, Italy. I want to emphasize this part of the exposure of my primary school in Brazil and a younger age where I was serving Mass. So obviously my first exposure of the foreign language besides Chinese was both English and a great deal of the learning of the Latin, and another major part were all sung in Gregorian Greek. The venture that we had took on to in a germ trade had always captured my imagination ever since I was a child. I got to Brazil in 1962 at age 14, where for those 5 years I was very much engaged and involved with the Brazilians, both from the city of Sao Paulo, and then I went to a boarding school, continue on with the Salesians order in Brazil in a town called Lorena. Lorena is the city sits right in the middle between Sao Paulo city and Rio de Janeiro. Don't forget, prior to our arrival in 1962, Rio de Janeiro was was the capital city of Brazil. So both cities in and between called the Valley of Paraíba, and this midpoint of the two cities had located three different Salesian schools. The first one from Niterói crossed the bridge from Rio de Janeiro, and then Sao Paulo and Lorena as the midpoint. This is a very fascinating time. My engagement linguistically, culturally, even emotionally with Brazil was very intense. I guess the combination of getting along, learning, and at the right ambience, 24/7, you lived amongst the youngsters from 14 to 16, almost 17, those 3 years were very, very intensive, involving in from sports playing to the band, even from typing. At 15, 16, a school of 150 some youngsters, boarding school, and that had given me a tremendous amount of exposure, plus the frequent time we visit with the missionaries coming in from the western state called Mato Grosso. So Brazil was absolutely fascinating. I used this stretch of my life in Brazil, turn into my second home, and also being very grateful. Knowing Portuguese, knowing Brazilians, learning all about Brazil had given me earning for the past 45 years. We started our business here in Lake Geneva by the name of China West. It was at a time when also China just opening up, and the name China West was borrowed from one of my sister's father-in-law from Vancouver, Canada. Everything I do in what I'm saying here has a attachment, has a link, and has a purpose. So China West in name may sound a little bit off with Brazil, but for these 45 years, China West have moved up to the wholesale business, from China West to Sea West Gems and Minerals, and from retail we went into wholesale with 25 plus years during our annual gem show in Tucson, Arizona. That will be the future story to speak of, just about Tucson and the exposure and the global connections to the international communities, where I met the German from Ida Oberstein, Afghani coming in with their kunzais and stones, and by way of Peshawar, Hong Kong, and even today I have deliveries if I need my stones coming up from Afghanistan, actually via the modern day AI and big data and all the tools, as we started in 1977 with the two of us, just like Ma and Pa, from retail to wholesale to mining to joint ventures, and also we are moving along the way with semi-precious stones to now the minerals, strategic minerals like rare earth, lithium mines, and for the most part at present we are doing a lot of the export of the quartzite, which is the high grade of the granite, from Brazil to China, with the possibility, due to the space and the quantity of the quality of stones, thinking about building a granite quartzite process in Sao Paulo, along the shores between Sao Paulo and Rio. I will be posting some of the pictures, photographs, basically telling my earlier story. Where do I go in Brazil? I will show the map of Brazil and then show you the map of the province called Minas Gerais. Minas in Portuguese means mines. Gerais just means general. And then the two cities I have spent most of my time as my office operation center and covering almost all area of Brazil, both located in the northeast of the province of Minas Gerais. The first town is called Governador Valadares. The second one next to it, about an hour and a half away, is called Teofilo Otoni. These two cities had dominated, even today, the center of coming and going, and all of these messages, informations come via the miners. And another purpose, one I call the Gemexplorer, in Portuguese called garimpeiros. As a psychologist, as a social scientist, I have also found in the history of Brazil, many of these so-called simple, humble folks called the garimpeiros, the diggers and the mine finders, have often been neglected. Even with the famous story of Serra Pelada in Pará in the 1980s, the extra amount of gold being found, not much we're told about this individual gem hunters, gem explorers. One in particular, I will be presenting, nicknamed Fifi, and then his name is Araudo Nunes. As a matter of fact, Fifi was one of the first person I ever purchased stone in Valadares in 1977. In that particular time and point, Fifi, I'm putting him paying him a lot of respect, unbeknown to him, with his supply coming in to these two towns with the amethyst he found in the area called Maraba in the province Pará. His amethyst in less than 10 years had built ourselves a huge fortune. Of course, when you're starting with very modest $3,000, only two of us, the first million capital generated is just by one color of the semi-precious stones. In fact, in the 4 or 5 categories of the stones at the cost in and around $1 a carat. You can talk about amethyst, which is the richest color, original color. The heated amethyst is called citrine, which is yellowish, citrus color. And then we talk about garnet, not much of value, but it's one of the gemstones or birthstones being used in Western society. And then the next one is peridot, which is in olivine. We have quite a bit of them in Arizona. In later years, some of the good sized peridot came in from the Korean border, North Korea and China, which I was involved. And from this Brazilian venture had taken me out to create another point of another center in Asia, which is Hong Kong. My father is from the city called Yuyao near Ningbo, but I was born in Shanghai. So this a little bit into the linguistic side of it, the tunnel, the sound. I do understand close to 5 dialects in Chinese, but speak more fluently with the mother tongue is Cantonese, but I also can handle Mandarin and understand very much about Shanghai dialect, plus with Sichuan, which is another province in the central China. And my mother is Cantonese, who was born and raised in Guilin, in the province next door called Guangxi. So she commanded the Guilin Guanhua, or the official language is like Mandarin in that region, or the present-day Putonghua. But all of us have an accent attached to the way we speak. But the fluency, my mother tongue, it is Cantonese. And after all, I spent 10 years, 52 to 62 in Macau. So linguistically, because of my exposure in Latin and Greek at a very young age, and this Latin and Greek have facilitated my learning of 3 additional Romance language, which is Portuguese from Brazil, Spanish, and doable Italian, and readable French. My father went to school in Sorbonne, so I'm pretty proud of my father. Even in my later years, we don't see things eye to eye, but in so far with languages, when I got to Brazil to see my father's command of Portuguese and my father's fluency in French. As a matter of fact, my father was one of the top French speakers upon the return from France to China, where my father had helped the governments in the different areas, but language have always been a big part of it. I'm going back to the gentle focus. I will show you a series of pictures of my itinerary, how I went from Sao Paulo to Minas in those 2 cities. In my days, the traveling time frame is 24 to 26 hours, all depending the weather conditions and the road conditions. in particular from that stretch going between Belo Horizonte, which is the capital city of Minas Gerais, to Valadares or Teofilo Otoni. Later on, I found out that Chinese merchants had named that highway as the Widowmaker. And it was extremely troublesome, just the road conditions and the vehicle and the many curves. Since then, the traveling time, as you shall see, I put in a Google map, is about 13 hours. More than that, we are flying in from Rio, Sao Paulo into Valadares. Okay, so all in all, I would flash a lot of pictures, Fifi. From this particular time to now, what I credit also very much that in our trade, even with the language I speak, one had to become your own economist. And in the world that we are engaged in hundreds and thousands of dollars per carat of a diamond, of a ruby, sapphire, the Asian top stones and the jade and whatnot, I say this without modesty in the way I was handling one of the lower cost of stones in the entire gem kingdom, regardless cost. The color command of the amethyst, the purple, its richness is enormous. I have not only tackled my first round of wealth built by the amethyst from Pará or Marabá via Fifi or Araudo Nunes, but I have touched upon all the amethysts in Brazil. If this timing on this particular footage not being able to cover, then I will start a series about amethyst, and you will see a few pictures covering the amethyst in the Bahia region and Pará, close to the Amazon, but the bulk of the amethyst you will find mostly in Rio Grande do Sul, right, the southernmost province of Brazil, and one of the top color, not in big sizes, in medium, small sizes, is coming from Artigas, Uruguay. And I want to repeat here, the picture that I'll be posting, just a little bit of history of my engagement with this industry in the last 45 years. And I think it is time, by putting this page on Facebook or Gemexplorer, and there will be more feature footages into YouTube to talk about a little bit, maybe as a foreign garimpeiro, a gem explorer coming out from the background of Chinese and now living in the U.S. I think this industry deserves a great deal more respect than what they have been spoken about, the gem trade. It is very interesting, it's complex, it's complicated, it is very, so to speak, dangerous, risky, and why all this risk is there's a lot of playful elements with my engagement with Brazil. But from Brazil, we can talk about Mozambique, we can talk about Nigeria, we can talk about Angola, South Africa, Afghanistan, Persia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, Korea, Japan, and Hong Kong and China. And I had my purpose to expand the not the monologue, but more with your input, questions, and answers to create a dialogue. And trust me, this batch of the garimpeiros, whom I dearly respect, they are the connections to the national knowledge and all things about stones and mines. And without any further, I wish Fifi, my friend, and all my Brazilian pals in the trade, which I have been somewhat neglected in the last 5 years due to COVID, and also in my preparation of the system called Gem Files is being developed. And hopefully in this year or next, we'll be able to have a fair trade, and we'll be involving this garimpeiros of Brazil, stone dealers in Brazil will have their connectivity with the global trade of stones. And once again, Happy New Year. Welcome to this broadcast. I'll be looking forward for your questions, and I will try to answer as much as I can. And as a matter of fact, I've taken colleges to Brazil many times, and also with these colleagues, we have gone to Altai Mountain by the Mongolian border in China, and purchasing and looking for the aquamarine mines up in that region of China. So, Happy New Year. Gong Hei Fa Choi. I'll see you next time.